In this video, we're going to be talking about the film Bless Their Little Hearts, directed by Billy Woodberry, and it was written by Charles Burnett, which came out in 1983. We're Coffee with Aliens at the Movies, a film review and film education channel. I'm Robert Bellissimo. I'm an actor and acting teacher.
I'm Steve Chambers. I'm a writer and actor.
And if this is your first time here, or if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking on the subscribe button, which you can find in the description box below.
To start, Robert, you're the one, you told me about this and I found it, and I've got my thoughts on it. But first, start us off. Tell me the basic plot. What's this about?
It is basically a family who are going through really hard economic times. They're a Black family living in Los Angeles, and the father has been out of work for quite a while. So every single day, he's looking for a full-time job, and then he does get day labor work, or he's selling fish on the street or out of a truck, but not enough to feed a family of 5 because they have 3 kids. So obviously, this is leaving a strain on the relationship with his wife. He's taking it. Both of them are taking out their frustrations on their kids. So it's a hard watch to see people struggling this much in these bad economic times. And I think it's also important for people. This is almost 40 years ago, and if people are wondering why he's out of work for so long, the film doesn't tell you. But in the early 80s, there was a really bad recession in the States. So if you were a factory worker, which the lead character name is Charlie, is a guy who worked in a factory, all those industries were going. And you see in the movie, he walks by early on and everything's in ruins. And the blue collar workers in the 80s were the ones who really got left behind. So if you were someone who had no skills, no education, you could get a job in a factory and actually get a high paying job with not having a lot of skills. You could just learn on the job and actually do quite well. But in the 80s, this was something that was really going. And we see now, this is something that hasn't even really improved for a lot of blue collar workers in middle class America. So the film doesn't really tell you that. It just gives you those glimpses, like I said, with things in ruins. But yeah, every single day, this guy just keeps getting beat, and he's looking for work, and he can't find work. And his wife's working and taking care of the kids. So it's a real look right into the life of people who, and this happens all the time. And that's the gist of the plot, really.
Of course, if you know anything about why this film was made, how it was made, it's extraordinarily, it's an important film. And I am surprised that even in researching it, that there isn't more talked. I mean, there are some articles, but not nearly as many as you'd think. And once you see the film, I think you'd know why, because it is very unique, especially being made in America at that time. The LA Rebellion, or the Los Angeles School for Black Filmmakers, which has got, we can touch on that. That's another story that this film came out of. But I'd say I appreciated it, but I was also captivated. I just looking visually at what I was watching, I was glued to it. So it's effective, and it's a great film for me because I only watched it hours ago, and already I'm seeing more things in it. You know what I mean? Like, how can people relate to this? Like what the characters are going through?
Well, I think a lot of people can, unless you've lived in extreme privilege and were extremely wealthy and never have to worry about money or pay rent or have any kind of hardships. I think most people can relate to not knowing where your next paycheck is coming. And you have children and don't know how you're gonna feed them, and you lost your job and don't know what to do and are trying your best and nothing's working out. These are things you don't see in movies enough, you know. And sometimes I really think that's a shame, because it's a truth. And it's, you know, here we are, 2020. And this is something that is still going on so much, where you see people who are left behind, who no one cares about. And, you know, if you are not educated formally and don't have much skills, but you want to work, you want to go out there and work, and just like Charlie does, and there's nothing for you. It's very relatable, and of course how money can affect relationships,
Sure.
Affect marriages, affect the way you treat your children. And seeing it, I saw it now for the second time last night, and I loved it even more. And you're right, there's so much to think about and go back and discover, and you get so involved with this family and what they're going through, and it really, the actors are incredible. And you got to remember that if you look, these people have not been in much since, and were not in much before, and they were part of the rebellion movement. And the parents, the married couple, are, I mean, you couldn't, even a professional actor with a lot of experience would have a hard time doing that. Not only that, when they have that long fight where because he cheats on her, she finds out, and she confronts him about it. And you watch that scene, it's like 10 minutes. There's no cuts.
No.
And it's a documentary. He's really just reacting off of where they're going. And it is a heartbreaking scene, and it's hard to watch. The acting is incredible. He's defending himself, and I'm out there every day trying to get a job.
The actors, I just want to say, the husband, Charlie, is played by Nate Hardman. Wife is on Days, the character, and her name, the actor's name is Casey Moore. And the scene Robert's talking about, this is a very pivotal scene, yes, where things finally come to a head. Everything the wife said, which is one of the better film moments in the 80s. Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. She's incredible and so real. I also really liked his reaction, because I thought, typically you fight back. He didn't cower, but he was actually very not the typical Hollywood, working class man, the Stanley Kowalski. He was like, hey baby, okay, you're right. It's like, okay. And she says some hard stuff to him, really, forget your dreams. I've waited long enough, you and your dreams. And she's not speaking out of turn. It's just like, whoa, God, this is a lot to hear. But he handles it like, okay. His heart's broken already though, because of how when he looks at his children. And so I think that fight's already happened within him, but she finally gets to have it out. That is the scene, I imagine, for anyone who's seen this, of the film. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that stuck out for you, scene-wise?
Before that, the couple are very distant with each other. Early on in the film, she's sleeping, and he comes in, are you sleeping? And her eyes are closed. And she says, oh, I wish I was, just to escape the reality of what's happening. And then you see her on the bus when she's coming home from work, and she's squeezing the handrail, just putting all of her emotion in the handrail on the bus. And he has a very similar scene in the bathroom where he's shaving, and he closes the faucet. You can feel, he's putting all his emotion in it, to the point where it's so tight that the daughter has to get a wrench in the following scene to open it back up. When you think about it, when couples who are married, have kids, have been together for years, when you have a big blowout, if you're in a good relationship, things kind of go back to normal, quite quickly, and even in a bad relationship. That's right. Things just, you move on. You got kids, then right away, he still has to go make money, right? Then he has this fishing idea. He's trying to find a fishing pole, in the next scene, because he wants to go fish and sell fish with his friends as another idea to make money. And you see, it's the first time she sort of is amused by him. She's laughing at him, searching for this fishing rod. But it goes right back, right? It's there's really, the plot is very thin, in the sense that it's a lot of him every single day pounding the pavement. Mm-hmm. And after that scene, it goes right back into that. It's not like...
Absolutely. Another scene that stuck out for me, I found really interesting, is just a little moment. It's well before the big fight. He's sitting at the kitchen table with and his son comes in, and he starts giving the son crap for not trimming his fingernails. Something so small, like, hey, you know, kind of like I told you to wash up, told you to brush your teeth, whatever, but it's, you didn't cut your nails. And then he starts doing it for him, not rough, but he starts berating him. And it's not yelling, but it's he says, I wrote it down, I forget, I can't find it. Yeah. Little girls run around with long fingernails. Sissy. Yeah, what do you sissy? And then the kid gets, you know, emotional, but holds it in. Yeah. And then the dad's like, I'll give you something to cry about. And he starts getting more angry than is necessary. And even the wife on days is like, hey. And I'm like, well, is this sort of like the faucet closing? Is this another way that he gets his frustrations out? Is it because he can't find work? He doesn't feel like a man, right? And so I'm going to take it out of my son. Like, well, you're like a little girl. Because I'm not going to admit I'm not a man, because I'll fall apart and I won't be able to put the pieces back together. So, God damn it, I'm a man. But he probably doesn't feel like it because he's not working. He's not fulfilling the quote unquote role. Right. And so when he kind of takes it out on his son, it's such a unique way of doing it in a film. Just like you said, and I forgot about that, the way he shuts the faucet to the point where the daughter has to use a wrench to undo it later. I'm like, oh, that says something. That's really interesting. And I do give this film so much credit because I like not being so obvious, right? Like showing me how someone's feeling through the way he talks to his son, through the way, or the wife holding the bus rail. I really like that, but of course, as we already said, it does come to a head.
And even the way the film ends, it just shows him walking. You know, he sees those guys selling fish on the street, and he thinks it's a good idea at first. And then as he's watching them, he's like, oh my God, we're literally stopping. You could see it on his face. We're literally stopping people and trying to sell them fish. And Billy Woodberry said he saw people do that. That was a real, or he knew people doing that. That was a real thing. And he's just like, Jesus, you know, like, has it come to this? And the other guys are celebrating that they stole stuff, right? And he just leaves, you know. He's got that scene with the barber where he goes to the barber and asks him, do you know anyone who's where I can get some work? And the guy kind of basically accuses him of being lazy and not wanting to wake up early enough. Oh, well, the guys who don't want to wake up at 5 or 6, they're the guys who aren't working. And he's like, no, getting up isn't my problem. And then the barber said, well, I'm not accusing you of that, but then he does, right?
Yes, he does.
He kind of just doubles down on it. He's like, you know, you can't be choosy. And it's like, geez, you know, again, a case where you're looking for advice and the advice is nowhere to be found. The advice is just out of ignorance. Well, it must be your fault. Right. Well, look, it's not the guy's fault, right? You know, you see him busting his ass, but there's no one helping this guy. And even his other friends are just, early in the film, they want to rob a bank, you know, because they're all broke too, right? Yeah. So, you know, everywhere this guy goes, there's no help. So I thought that was really interesting, how he has those elements of other characters seeing this and not being helpful.
The whole opening is just like him at the unemployment office, right? Yeah. And with music, with jazz music.
I love the music.
So do I. And I mean, you're in it, and it's interesting. So it's like as though you tuned in. I remember it felt like, oh, did I miss 10 minutes? But no, you didn't.
Yeah, it starts in the middle just in it.
It does. Yeah. And I like when a movie does that. So then I think
I love the movie. I liked it even more the second time. And you got to take a few breaths before you watch it, because just reading the plot, you know, oh God, you know, struggling economic family, this is going to be a rough watch. But it's important to see. And, you know, when you have people, you see this especially in the States, where politicians will stand up and say, oh, you know what, half the country, they're just takers. You know, and it's like, that's such bullshit, right? And is this guy a taker? This guy's trying every single day to look for a full-time work. And you know what? The problem is, it's people are taking from him, and people are taking from people like him, and ruining jobs out of greed. And I know the film doesn't directly talk about that, but it makes you think. Why? What is the problem here? Why? You know, and they have a nice house. Because
Yeah.
before that, like I said, a lot of these guys were able to make good wages, high wages in a factory. And if they had no education or skill, they could still have a family and have a living wage. And everyone is entitled to that if they want to work. And clearly, Charlie wants to work. So if people want to look into why these issues are complicated, why they're not as black and white in terms of laziness or whatever that people think, watch this fucking movie. We lack empathy, and art movies show the way, you know. And we saw that with the neo-realists, we saw that with the French New Wave, and we definitely saw that with the LA Rebellion. And I've only seen a few movies from this period. Killer of Sheep, Ashes and Ambers is another one, which is a fantastic movie. And they all explore similar themes, right? And these are essential films. Not only also to speak on race, you know, to educate people on race. These are films that you've got to watch. Apart from that, these are just fantastic movies. They're engaging.
Yeah.
They've got great performances. They bring you right into that world.
Yeah.
And you get lost in it. And they hit you hard. And they make you think. And they stay with you. And those are the best kinds of movies to me. And
very good.
Woodberry, this is his only feature film.
I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah. Why he didn't make any more features, I don't know. He did make a few documentaries. I know he went on to teach filmmaking, but I don't know. I don't know. But hey, it's like Orson Welles said, all you need is one masterpiece.
Yeah.
And clearly, to me, this is a masterpiece. It is on the Criterion Channel only until the very end of this month. You have till October 31st to watch it. And Billy Woodberry's one of his other documentaries is on there as well, which I haven't seen, but I am going to check out. If this is your first time here, or if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking on the Coffee with Aliens at the Movies logo at the top right of your screen. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.